I will love thee. Oh, I am that I am, my strength. The I am is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer, my God, my strength in whom I will trust, my buckler, and the horn of my salvation, and my high tower. I will call upon the I am who is worthy to be praised, who shall be saved, who shall I be saved from my enemies? The sorrows of death compassed me, and the floods of the ungodly men made me afraid. The sorrow of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me. In my distress I called upon the I am, and cried unto my God. He heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry came before him, even to his ears. Then the earth shook and trembled, and the foundations also of the hills moved and were shaken because he was wroth. And with that, this is Psalms chapter 18, verses 1 through 7. Deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have sway over the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. Establish thou me and my seed forever, that we go not astray from henceforth and forevermore. A prayer of Abraham, Jubilees chapter 12 and verse 20. Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yes, my hand clap goes out in praise for those of you that have been with us since the beginning, and those of you that have come in and there's about. We thank God for you. And those of you who have just subscribed, we thank God for you also. And those of you that are about to subscribe, and we call those things that are not as though they are. Yes. We're in the book of Jasher, chapter 23. Still in chapter 23. This has 90 verses. And we've just ended where, in verse 74, where Abraham a ram was caught in the bush. But we find out that bush wasn't that God provided the sacrifice, but Satan was trying to hinder that sacrifice by causing his horns to be caught in the thicket of the bush. But it didn't work. Oh, all praises to the Most High. Yes. Glory to God. Now in verse 75, and he got that lamb as you prepare. He got that lamb, and he began to take that ram and he dressed the lamb. When he started dressing it, he lifted up his knife and he said, "This blood shall be instead of my son." Yes. And God seen that now he trusted and depends on God. Not only did God know it, but all the devils and angels throughout all the heavens and earth understood and saw Abraham, who he was and why God chose him. Even the children of Jacob. There's something in the child of Jacob that he remains faithful to the Most High. The child of Jacob that he's adamant about the things of God. The child of Jacob that he would not accept anything, but that God is God alone and there's no one beside him. He it is, or who is, that kills and make alive and wound. And he it is that heals, for no one can escape his hand of power. This is the child of faith of the child of Abraham, even Jacob. Take note, children of Ishmael, that your God is this same God. Yes, you can be delivered of the things that God said we should be delivered of in that great and notable day, if you follow the things of your own, even your father Abram. Now, we are in Jasher chapter 23 and verse 75. And all that Abraham did on this occasion by the altar, he would exclaim and say, "This is the room of my son. And may it in this day be considered before the I am in the place of my son." And Abraham finished the whole of the service by the altar. Yeah, he had a service, just him and his son. It don't take a lot of folks, just one. You with me right now, we are having a service before the Most High. Yes, it don't take a room. I could be outside. I've had many services just outside in the midst of nowhere, just spontaneously, and people show up. But either way, he had a service. And the service was accepted before the I Am and was accounted as if it had been Isaac. And the I Am blessed Abraham and his seed on that day. 76. And Satan went to Sarah. Oh, now this is where, if you saw yesterday's video, what we was talking about. Satan went to Sarah, and he appeared to her in the figure of an old man, very humble and meek. And Abraham was yet engaged in the burnt offering before the I Am. And he said unto her, dost thou not know all the works that Abraham hath made with thine only son this day? For he took Isaac and built an altar and killed him and brought him up as a sacrifice upon the altar. And Isaac cried and wept before his father. But he looked not at him, neither did he have compassion over him. And Satan repeated these words, and he went away from her. And Sarah heard all the words of Satan, and she imagined him to be an old man, shapeshifters. All angels can do this. I mean, those that have appeared before the Most High. From amongst the sons of men who had been with her. And only God can give them the authority or the permission to do these things, to see what the children of men might do. To have been with her son and have come and told her these things. Now, verse 79. And Sarah lifted up her voice and wept and cried out bitterly on account of her son. And she threw herself upon the ground. I mean, just weeping out her son, her only son. The son where she was mocked by Hagar because she had a son first, who was Ishmael. Now Sarah has this son, and now he's taken. His own father have killed him, she says, that the old man had caused her to believe. She lifted up her voice and wept and cried out bitterly on account of her son. And she threw herself upon the ground, and she cast dust upon her head. And this was the tradition of Israel. In grief, dust and fasting and mourning and black sackcloth. Yes, these were the things of mourning. Yes. Oh, my son, Isaac, my son. Oh, that I hid this day, died instead of thee. And she continued to weep and said, and grieves me for thee, oh, my son Isaac. Oh, that I had died this day in thy stead. And she continued to weep and said, it grieves me for thee after I have reared thee and have brought thee up. Now my joy is turned into mourning over thee, that I had a longing for thee, and cried and prayed to God till I bare thee at 90 years old. In other words, this has been an uphill battle even to have you and to hold you. And now hast thou served this day for the knife and the fire to be made an offering. But I console myself with thee, my son, in its being the word of the I Am, for thou didst perform command of thy God. She speaks to the air. She says she thinks she's speaking to the dead. And that we can understand when we say God of Isaac, Abraham, and those things, yes. We're speaking to God, but we're admonishing that He was the God of our ancestors. When we say those, we say, well, He was the God of my mother, the God of my father, the God of my sister, the God of my brother, or the God of my great-grandfather. But in this, she was so grieved that she began to talk to the dead. Was it a sin that she should talk to the dead in this sense of the word, or in this scene? It is being the word of the I Am, for thou didst perform the command of thy God. Who can transgress the word of our God? In whose hand is the soul of every living creature? Now she had been there when she heard Abraham have shared the story about he being cast into the fire by King Nimrod, and God delivered him out. of the fire, and he did not even have the bands that were binding his hands, neither did he have the smell of smoke. Some of you say, oh, he brought that, they borrowed that from Shat minute ago. No, they didn't. Could it be that they borrowed that from this? Or maybe they are the same, one and the same, that they both have experienced the same things, but in different times. Come on here. And Sarah laid her head upon the bosom of one of her maids, and she just laid. I mean, it just, and she became still as stone. No crying, no nothing, just everything still. Have you been so grieved to just be still? And she afterward rose up and went about making inquiries till she came to Hebron, and she inquired of all those whom she met walking in the road. And no one could tell her what had happened to her son. 85. And she came with her maid servants and men servants to Kerith Arba, which is in Hebron. And she asked concerning her son, and she remained there, while she sent some of her servants to seek where Abraham had gone with Isaac. And they went to seek him in the house of Shem and Eber, and they could not find him. And they sought throughout the land, and he was not there. And behold, Satan came to Sarah in the shape of an old man. Again, he did this. And he came and stood before her, and he said unto her, I spoke falsely unto thee. For Abraham did not kill his son, and he is not dead. And when she heard the word, her joy was so exceedingly violent, and accounting of her son, that her soul went out through joy, and she died. I mean, this woman was so joyous and so glad that her son is still living. The one she nurtured from a baby, the only son that it took her 90 years to even see his little bouncing baby boy face. And now she's overjoyed to the point her heart couldn't take it. And she died and was gathered to her people. She didn't see him again. She was separated from her as she separated from her flesh. Death. But just the thought and the sound that her bouncing baby boy, 34-year-old man, is alive. Yes, glory to God. Woo, that just sends something through you. In 87, and when Abraham finished his service, he returned with his son Isaac. See, Abraham was taught by his elders, Shem, Eber, how to conduct an offering before the Most High. Some of you, even with the Passover, you get a lamb chop or something like that, but the Most High gives specific instructions. He said that you should take the lamb. You should not break none of his body, neither cut none of his body, but you shall roast it over a fire, just like you do chickens. Roast it over a fire, and turning it, or whatever you want to call it, roasting over a fire. And then you will just pick off the meat until all the meat is gone. And if any meat is left over till the next day, it shall be burnt. You will not eat that meat. You will eat it with your shoes laced upon your feet, your clothes on your back as if you're ready to go somewhere. This is the way the God have prescribed even the remembrance or the Deuteronomy of Passover. Let's get it right. Let's get it right. And when Abraham had finished the service, he returned to his son Isaac and to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and they came home. And Abraham sought for Sarah and could not find her, and he made inquiries concerning her. And they said unto him, she went as far as Hebron to seek you, but where you had gone, for thus she was informed. And Abraham and Isaac went to her to Hebron, and when they found that she was dead, she had separated from her body, because of the grief and the joy of knowing that her son lives, they lifted up their voices and wept bitterly over her. I mean, a woman of stature. They didn't have everything that they needed. They lived in tents. Yeah, he was broke according to your standards, woman. Yes, but she loved her husband because what? He kept a standard. He kept the vision and he followed God. And her son did the same. And she was delighted that she had a son who could walk after his father, whom she admired. Hey! Woo! My. It make you want to get up here and run around the block 3 or 4 miles and jump up into the sky 7 miles in outer space and come back down and say, oh, hallelujah. Yes. You talking about being a woman of Sarah. And you talking about having the faith of Abram, man. Even the confidence of Abram. That's a tall order. Very tall order. And how hast thou lifted me, and where hast thou gone? And how hast thou lifted me? And Abraham and Isaac wept greatly. I mean, a tight son and his father. Yes. Servants wept with him because they loved Sarah too. Sarah wasn't a witch. She wasn't a heathen. She loved them, and she knew what their purpose was. They knew who their purpose was, to serve her. She didn't put no task upon them that they could not bear, neither whip nor try to beat the children that they bear or kill them like these heathen have done to the children of Jacob. No. And they mourned over her a great and heavy mourning. And the life of Sarah was 127 years. And she died. So that means that, and she died. And Abraham rose up from before his dead to seek a burial place, to bury his wife, Sarah. And he went up and spoke to the children of Heth, the inhabitants of the land, saying, I'm a stranger and a sojourner with you in your land. This is the land of Canaan. Give me a possession of a burial place in your land, that I may bury my dead from before me. And the children of Heth said unto Abram, Behold, the land is before thee in the choice of our sepulchres. Bury thy dead, for no man shall withhold thee from burying thy dead. And Abraham said unto them, If you are agreeable to this, go and entreat me to Ephron, the son of Zochar, requesting that he may give me a cave of Machpelah, which is in the end of his field, and I will purchase it of him. See, this is the way of the children of Jacob. We don't take stuff for free if we don't need it for free. We don't manipulate governments for their free handouts, because all their handouts many times have been bribes. Bribes for those who have sit up there and took these welfare things because they wanted to have free stuff. Didn't want the burden of having a husband, or a husband didn't want the burden of having a wife, which they considered a burden. Neither should have been a burden to each other. The free stuff. Then they had a bribe, and now here we are into a situation where even in different countries, the women don't want children, and the men don't want women, and they don't want the children either. What burdens we shall bear in the future. And Abraham said unto them, If you are agreeable to this, go and entreat for me to Ephron, the son of Zochar, requesting that he may give me the caves of Machpelah, which is in the end of the field, and I will purchase it of him, and for whatever he desire for it. And Ephraim dwelt among the children of Heth. And they went and called for him, and he came before Abram. And Ephraim said unto Abram, Behold, all thou requirest thy servants will do. Abram was a good man. They seen Abram when he built just a vineyard in the middle of the road where passers-by can come and eat. And if they were hungry, they can go to Abraham's house and have a meal. And maybe if they were naked, they could have clothes. Don't you know Sarah was a part of that? This man was so, you talking about the love of Abraham. You can talk about Esau's if you want to, but the love of Abraham toward the children of men. It's a wonder why God have chosen him to be even down to Jacob, to be heir, even his remnant before him. Now in verse 5, I've read so long we've gotten to chapter 24. But nevertheless, we're going to read on. And Ephraim dwelt among the children of Heth, and behold, all thou requirest of thy servant will do. And Abraham said, no, but I will buy the cave and the field which thou hast for value. Why should I want it free from you? You don't have to give me nothing. Let me pay for this. If I have the money, I don't require anything from you free. I don't have any needs. Why should I even want this thing free from you? Let me pay for it. He said, for I will buy the cave in the field which thou hast value, in order that it may be for a possession of a burial place forever. In other words, we're going to do this thing right. I'm going to pay for this. Don't give me nothing. Even as in the old song, James Brown said, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. You open the door and I'll get it myself. If I have to pay you, I'll get it myself. If I have to work for it, I'll get it myself. Don't hinder me. Now, only at your value. Now, Ephraim and all his brothers heard this, and Abraham weighed to Ephraim 400 shekels of silver in the hands of Ephraim and in the hands of all his brethren. And Abraham wrote this transaction, and he wrote it and testified it with 4 witnesses. Let everything be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. This is the way of Abraham. When you get into the law statutes that was passed to Moses, it was the law statutes that came from Abram. The confidence of Abraham. Are you so thick in the head that you can't see? Does this scare you because you've been so indoctrinated by Christianity, by your preachers and all these horrors of revelation and all these false doctrines that you can't see that Abraham was the one that God had chose from the beginning? From Shem to Eber to Abram, skipped Haran. He had to find a seed, a man who he can show himself strong in. And he did it. And it testified with 4 witnesses. And these are the names of the witnesses. Amagal, son of Abishna, the Hittite. This was a Canaanite. And Adikkoram, son of Ashunok, a Hivite. And Abdon, son of Akarim, the Gomorite. In other words, he was of Gomorrah. Even though Gomorrah was destroyed, there was Gomorrans living. And Bakdil, son of Badush, and the Zidonites. And with that, we're going to say peace.